Opening 0040 law enforcement officers routinely encounter situations involving violence, crisis, and human suffering. During their careers, many officers also report experiences they say cannot be easily explained through training, policy, or standard investigative procedures. In a community feature, officers from different agencies were asked to share unusual or unexplained events they experienced while on duty. What follows are those accounts, presented as they were described by the officers themselves. Section 1, a 911 call 042. 001 dispatcher described receiving a 911 call from a family reporting their teenage daughter was possessed. The dispatcher initially assumed the situation involved drugs or a mental health crisis. During the call, she heard two voices speaking at the same time. One sounded like a young girl, the other sounded like an adult male. The dispatcher asked the caller to tell the person yelling in the background to stop. The caller responded that both voices were coming from the girl. The dispatcher later stated that although she had handled many disturbing calls in her career, this one stood out. A supervisor later listened to the recording. No explanation was offered. Section to an empty jail cell 2004. An officer described an incident during a booking process at a police station. While booking a domestic violence suspect, he noticed a man standing silently inside a nearby holding cell. The man did not speak or move. Later, when officers returned to conduct a head count, the cell was empty. No records showed anyone had been placed in that cell. Concerned officers reviewed surveillance footage. The footage showed the man standing in the cell. Moments later, after officers exited the booking area, the figure disappeared. When officers attempted to copy the footage, the figure did not appear on the exported video. Officers later reported detainees speaking toward the empty cell despite it appearing vacant. Section 3, a welfare check 4/005/45. One officer described responding to a late-night welfare check on an elderly woman who had not been seen for weeks. Mail was piled up. The vehicle had a layer of dust. No lights were visible inside the home. Using a bucket to look through a window, the officer initially saw an empty living room. Moments later, an elderly woman appeared. Directly in front of the glass, the officer fell backward in shock. When he looked again, he saw the woman standing in a hallway, wearing a nightgown, slowly turning her head toward him. She then walked away into the darkness. The officer left the scene. The house later had new occupants. No further information was ever obtained. Section for alarms and K9 calls 5/45/7/15 several. Officers reported alarm calls where no suspects were located. In one case, an officer watched a secured door slam shut on its own while an alarm reactivated. A K9 unit was deployed. The dog behaved as if someone was present but failed to locate any scent. In another incident, an airport alarm sounded from inside a building that had no motion sensors. The alarm originated from a cash register that could only be opened using a hidden mechanism. The owner stated only 3 people knew how to open it himself, his wife, and his deceased father. No money was taken. Section 5 Shadow Figures and Voices 7/15/9. Multiple officers described seeing shadow figures inside police facilities, courthouses, and medical centers during overnight shifts. Some reported hearing footsteps or conversations when buildings were confirmed empty. In one jail, an officer reported hearing 2 people speaking. When he checked, only one inmate was present. The inmate asked if officers could move his neighbor, despite the adjacent cell being empty. Other officers described calls for help coming from vacant houses, voices heard on the line asking for assistance, and alarms activating, repeatedly without cause. Section 6 Officer Perspectives 9/0010. Many officers who shared these stories emphasized they remained skeptical. Several stated they believed most incidents had psychological or environmental explanations. Others said they simply could not explain what they witnessed. No departments involved offered official conclusions. No formal investigations were documented. Closing 10/30/11/00. These accounts represent personal experiences reported by officers during the course of their duties. They are presented without interpretation or conclusion. As several officers noted, some incidents remain unanswered. If you found this report informative, please like the video, subscribe for more long-form stories, and follow the channel for future updates.